So today, Caitlin Clark released a water bottle. Yes, I mean this, a Gatorade water bottle. I think it's going to be impossible to get because this is a water bottle. Not only did it sell out, it was obviously going to sell out. The damn site crashed. The website crashed.
Welcome to the Clark Update, and I am back with another highly anticipated video. Today we have got a major story that has everyone talking. We are breaking down Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, and a shocking $50 million Gatorade deal. Stay tuned as we dissect all the latest updates, fan reactions, and everything you need to know. Let us get right into the action. There is a reason why Caitlin Clark holds the largest Nike contract of any WNBA player in history. We are talking a $50 million Gatorade partnership with a viral flavor, plus a Wilson signature line that has not been done since Michael Jordan. That was no accident. Meanwhile, Angel Reese's sneakers are sitting in the discount bin for an equally obvious reason. Reports claim major sponsors are currently reconsidering, and Reebok has stayed silent about promoting them. And I promise you, Reese's reaction to all of this is absolutely hilarious and exactly what you would expect. So, are you on Team Ree or Team Caitlin? Let me know in the comment section below. For years, Gatorade has been heavily involved in athlete partnerships. It was consumed by Michael Jordan. It was consumed by LeBron James. It was even consumed by Serena Williams. If you like this content, please consider giving the video a like and subscribing to the channel. Believe it or not, over 73% of our viewers still have not subscribed. It is free and only takes a second, but it means the world to us. So, have you subscribed already? Awesome. Thank you so much for your support. Now, back to the video. In all of their history, not a single product launch had ever caused their website to crash like this. Gatorade servers simply could not keep up when Caitlin Clark dropped her Rainberry bottle. Let us discuss the exact specifics of this arrangement. According to reports, the deal is worth about $50 million. That makes it one of the largest endorsement deals ever handed out to a female athlete in any sport, not just in professional basketball. That massive figure alone tells a story. However, in this case, the actual structure of the deal is crucial. Gatorade went way beyond simply slapping Caitlin Clark's name onto an already existing product. They actually brought back a nostalgic flavor that Caitlin loved when she was a kid, gave it a special twist, and made it uniquely her own signature taste. That level of dedication is on a whole different level. When you look at the actual design of the Rainberry launch, the bottles had an undeniable connection to Clark's personal brand. Absolutely everything revolved directly around her, including the custom packaging, the color scheme, and the name. Rainberry was not some cheap sticker-covered generic product. From the very second it went live, it became a massive cultural moment, and consumers responded instantly. Gatorade's website was overloaded within minutes of the official introduction. Disappointed fans were sharing screenshots of error pages everywhere. Before the vast majority of users could even get the page to load, the product was entirely gone. Now, think about the actual risk that Gatorade was taking here. Their roster of superstar athletes is already well established. They did not have to take this leap. They certainly have plenty of choices. Yet, after looking at their entire roster, they decided that Clark deserved her own distinctive flavor instead of just a standard co-branded campaign, some limited edition colorway, or a simple water bottle stamped with her logo. A permanent stocking unit is a real flavor. Soon, retail stores all across the nation will have it sitting on their shelves. Depending on how quickly it sells, stores will reorder it. It either has real legs or it does not. Rainberry sold out so fast on day one that it did not even matter if it had legs. Here is what that massive sellout really tells us. Gatorade tracks way more than just social media hype. They actively monitor retail velocity at thousands of locations all across the country. And that retail data shows us something very specific. When a flavor moves as fast as Rainberry did outside of her core fan base, you know there is massive demand. I mean, people at the register who do not watch the WNBA, people who have never bought a Clark jersey or followed her on Instagram, actively picking up that bottle. That right there is the absolute definition of quantifiable crossover appeal. Besides, none of this was unexpected. Every major company already had a real-world case study of the Clark effect on brand awareness during her dominant rookie season with the Indiana Fever. TV ratings went through the roof, arenas sold out, merchandise flew off shelves, and Gatorade watched every single bit of it. They closely monitored the data and moved forward once they were fully confident in what they were seeing. Plus, they achieved $50 million with a truly unique flavor. Right now, absolutely everyone is talking about that massive website crash. But in all honesty, that is just a tiny fraction of what this historic agreement actually represents, even though it definitely deserves the heavy attention. Look, one single launch day is not the focal point of a $50 million long-term collaboration. These major deals are structured based entirely on a brand's projection of an athlete's commercial ceiling for the next several years. And when you look closely, Gatorade's bet on Caitlin Clark's ultimate ceiling is actually far lower than what was predicted for her 2 years ago. In 2026, when a massive company's website crashes during a product launch, that is a direct market verdict. Before those servers could even handle the crazy demand, Clark answered Gatorade's big bet on their unique signature flavor line. Even if that massive Gatorade deal is already enormous, it is really just the latest chapter in a wild marketing story that was rewriting the rules for female athletes long before Clark ever joined the league. Before Caitlin Clark, only one single name in the history of Wilson Sporting Goods had a signature line, and you already know exactly who that is. Michael Jordan, that is the entire list. Jordan and now Clark. Just think about that. Now, let us look at the full picture of Clark's endorsement portfolio. Right now, she holds the absolute biggest shoe contract in WNBA history with Nike. She is also the first female athlete in State Farm's history to sign a major deal with the company. On top of that Wilson brand partnership, she currently has a $50 million Gatorade deal that features her very own flavor. By itself, any single one of those massive deals would make headlines. But when all four land within a span of just 2 years, you get something completely unprecedented in women's sports history. People totally overlooked the Wilson deal when it first broke, so it deserves some real focus here. Wilson does not do cheap marketing gimmicks. That is not how they operate. They are easily one of the most famous sporting goods giants on the planet, and they are incredibly selective about which athletes get their names stamped on a product line forever. Michael Jordan was actually the last person to get that honor before Clark. Not a hot celebrity from the last 10 years, and not a recent superstar. Michael Jordan literally redefined what it means to be a sports brand. That is the elite category Clark belongs to right now. Because Wilson went all in on her the exact same way, people are already drawing direct comparisons to Jordan himself. This is where people really need to understand what a true signature line represents. It is not just some limited edition release. The marketing is not seasonal. Wilson will constantly manufacture, promote, and distribute high-end gear under Clark's personal brand. In their corporate ledger, that is a permanent, ongoing line item. Unless they absolutely believe in an athlete's long-term commercial power, brands do not take that gamble. When you look closely at the State Farm deal, it carries the exact same weight. State Farm has spent decades investing in massive sports marketing. Historically, they have partnered with elite male superstars across basketball, baseball, and football. Before Clark, they had never once signed a female athlete. They did not just break that pattern at random. Thanks to decades of deep consumer data, State Farm knows exactly which partnerships actually drive real business value. After analyzing all those numbers, they realized targeting Clark's massive fan base was absolutely worth it. That is a monumental move from a corporation that never makes hasty decisions. Then there is Nike. Reports suggest her blockbuster deal is worth $28 million over 8 years. That stands as the single biggest endorsement deal a WNBA player has ever secured from a shoe brand. But the next detail is even more massive. We are looking at a projected release for Clark's first signature shoe in 2026. Nike signature shoes have historically built entire business empires from the ground up. The Jordan brand, which started as just a single sneaker, now generates over $1 billion annually. Analysts are already predicting Clark's first shoe will sell out in minutes, long before it even hits shelves. Just Wilson, Gatorade, State Farm, and Nike. These are not small-time companies chasing a temporary social media trend. These are 4 of the most dominant commercial giants in modern American culture. And within the exact same short window, every single one of them locked Clark down long-term. Heavyweight brands like that do not move this fast just to ride a temporary trend. They are actively positioning themselves for the next 10 years. With a powerhouse team behind her, Clark is way more than a mere basketball star. Right now, she has become an entire commercial infrastructure. Forbes definitely took notice. Trust me, the entire sports world has to pay attention when Forbes puts a concrete dollar value on your influence. Because Forbes doesn't rank athletes based on how much noise they make on social media. They analyze real sponsorship value, audience reach, league-wide economic impact, and an athlete's actual commercial conversion rate. So when Forbes officially named Caitlin Clark the most powerful female athlete on earth, that wasn't just a subjective opinion. It was a data-driven finding. Across the entire sports landscape, Clark ranked as the 4th most powerful woman in the industry overall. The only 3 names ranked above her are Amy Howe, Amy Montaigne, and Gail Benson, and all of them run massive organizations. Clark is the only active athlete sitting at the very top. That is the defining stat, and the concrete data backing it up is mind-blowing. In her debut season, she pulled in $11.1 million off the court, the absolute highest figure ever posted by a first-year WNBA player. Besides contract value, Forbes also measures the actual quality of an athlete's social media engagement. That shows you how much an athlete's fans actually show up and buy in when a brand gets involved, instead of just looking at some hollow follower count. Brands are looking at an athlete's power to draw fans from outside their main sport, that cross-industry appeal. Plus, they are weighing the overall economic impact on the entire league, meaning whether that specific player is lifting up the whole ecosystem. Look, the receipts are public record, and Caitlin Clark checks every single one of those boxes. Now, here is the part that caused a stir. Angel Reese was not on that Forbes list, not even near the bottom. Not in some minor category, not even given an honorable mention. She was just flat out absent. And that is despite spending the better part of 2 years making it clear she saw herself as Clark's business equal, if not her chief rival. Look, Reese has definitely been out there. She gets tons of media coverage. She secured a big contract with Reebok. Honestly, most professional athletes would be pretty envious of her social media numbers. But here is the thing. Visibility and worth are not the same, and business value is exactly what Forbes is measuring. If you look at Reese's public stance over the last 2 years, there is a pretty obvious trend. She constantly dropped brand partnership announcements right around Clark's announcements. Even her remarks on social media constantly kept coming back to Clark. Reese even publicly posted about playing golf during Clark's crossover event with the LPGA, and that felt more like a territorial response than a sincere pastime. Look, it is a coincidence once, but a steady pattern over a 2-year stretch is a calculated strategy, even if it did not make enough of a market impact to grab Forbes' attention. And then, things got even more complicated with Sportico. They just named Clark the highest paid player in the entire WNBA. Keep in mind, her actual league contract is still on a rookie scale. So, she is not sitting at the top of that list because of her on-court salary. No matter how big anyone else's contract is, her off-court earnings are so huge that they easily blow past every other player in the WNBA. Talk about an incredible market indicator. This shows that Clark's base league salary is almost irrelevant in the grand scheme of things, simply because corporate sponsors are paying her at such an elite level. The Sportico data and that Forbes ranking are really just numbers. They do not need to be spun or twisted. But when you compare them side by side, it is clear that the gap between Reese's and Clark's business trajectories is not just wide, it is actually expanding. And for months now, the market has been quietly signaling this through TV ratings, brand partnerships, and actual retail sales numbers. Sportico and Forbes just made it impossible for anyone to ignore. Being named the world's most powerful female athlete and becoming the highest paid player in the WNBA is not just some fleeting moment. It is a real evaluation of the market. And look, it is definitely not a coincidence that neither list featured her most vocal rival. That is a real data point, especially considering how that Reebok shoe was doing. The shoe that was supposed to be Angel Reese's big commercial breakthrough was experiencing a very different reality while Clark was racking up all these accolades. Look, a signature shoe is supposed to make a major statement. Angel Reese's signature Reebok shoe has actually been sitting on store shelves for several months now. That is the exact moment where a brand is supposed to plant its flag and declare this athlete is our future. Instead, major retailers have already moved it to the clearance rack, and Reebok has barely run any promotions for it. Let me tell you, that is not some strategic soft launch. There is really no good way to spin that situation. Reebok made a huge splash when they originally signed Reese, and that initial rollout was highly visible. The timing of the whole thing, coming right after Clark signed with Nike, seemed completely intentional. It was Reebok's bold way of announcing to the world that they had their own premier star in women's basketball. That partnership was hyped up as a major turning point in Reebok's bid to return to prominence in women's sports, and they definitely got the initial buzz they wanted. But when the shoe finally hit the shelves, the actual sales numbers painted a completely different picture. Months later, the shoe still has not sold out. There are no waiting lists, and there is absolutely zero consumer urgency driving people to go out and buy it. Instead, major retail outlets have already started slashing prices, and in the sneaker business, that is easily the clearest sign that demand fell way short of expectations. Retailers do not put discounts on hot, high-demand products. They discount inventory that they are just trying to get rid of. Now, compare that to Clark's unreleased Nike sneaker. Industry insiders are already predicting a sellout within minutes of the official release. Nike is actively building a huge marketing machine for a sneaker that is not even out yet, while Reebok is quietly slashing prices on a shoe that has just been sitting on shelves. You do not need to explain that stark contrast, but this is exactly where things get even tougher for Reese. For these brands, long-term athlete partnerships are about way more than just sales numbers. They are constantly tracking overall public sentiment. They are calculating the potential risk of the entire association. In other words, what does the general public really connect with this specific athlete? And ultimately, does that relationship boost or end up hurting the brand's reputation with its core audience? Major sponsors have reportedly become a lot less interested in Reese over this past year. According to several sources, that persistent impression of hostility toward Clark is the one issue that keeps coming up. And that view has been consistently driven by certain behaviors, with comments on social media constantly coming back to Clark. The announcements of brand deals decreased right around Clark's announcements in a trend that seemed more reactionary than natural. Although those public remarks caused controversy, they did not foster any goodwill among those engaged. And all of this is noticed by these brands, who have entire teams whose sole responsibility is to keep an eye on precisely this kind of stuff. And it really seems like what they have been witnessing with Reese has made them hesitate. The most obvious indication of this current situation is Reebok's sudden marketing retreat. Look, it is not a scheduling problem when a company signs an athlete to a signature shoe deal and then simply stops advertising it. The athlete on the other end of that deal is not going to benefit from that internal reevaluation. The sneaker has already been marked down, and the advertising has completely stopped. A successful partnership simply does not experience either of those things. Whether Reese's commercial momentum has slowed down is not the true question at hand. It obviously has. The real question is whether that problem-causing behavior will alter. If it doesn't, the distance between her trajectory and Clark's is simply going to widen and become much more difficult to bridge. Narratives and social media moments are simply not traded on the actual market. The market deals in what converts, what sells, and what kind of image a company wants associated with its name. Entire websites actually crash when they see Clark's name. Even though her shoe hasn't even released yet, it is already creating more buzz than Reese's ever did. And Reese's response to all of this, including the Gatorade deal, the Forbes ranking, the Nike buildup, and those Sportico numbers, has been precisely what you might anticipate from someone who is watching another athlete amass a massive fortune while their own commercial moment is subtly fading away. There really is not a single agreement at the center of Clark's current situation. It is about what happens when genuine crossover appeal, on-court talent, and steady professionalism are all combined over time. In the words of one analyst, if we can't sell Caitlyn, we can't sell anybody. The Fever enter 2026 with the most lucrative player in all of women's sports, a Nike shoe launch that is bound to be as successful as Rainberry, and they have a roster featuring Lexi Hull, Aaliyah Boston, Kelsey Mitchell, and Sophie Cunningham that is absolutely built to compete. The fans crashed a website, and so did the brands, Forbes and Reese. Please let me know in the comments section.